Her name is Lydia Alexander Vaughan. She is a mathematical genius. This enigmatic, young cryptographer was abducted on Tuesday the 1st of May, 2012. The strange circumstances surrounding her disappearance are still not clearly understood, some 9 years later. This is what happened. Lydia was born on the 9th of January, 1982. She was the only child of Roger and Alexa Vaughan, who both worked as educators. From an extremely young age, it was clear that Lydia was a gifted person. She was an inquisitive child, but was also very shy. She did incredibly well at school, excelling in mathematics, science and history. The first major tragedy of her young life struck at the age of 10 in 1992. Both of her parents died in a mysterious fire at the family farm. The case was ruled as accidental and the files closed. Roger and Alexa left Lydia with her grandmother, Sylvia, before rushing off to the farm. They did not explain anything to Sylvia and appeared to be in a panicked state. The exact circumstances of their demise remains shrouded in mystery. Young Lydia was deeply affected by this devastating event. It would deeply influence the rest of her life in every way. She had trouble making friends and found it difficult to socialize with her peers. She also had difficulties with migraines and blackouts, which began to develop a few months after the death of her parents. After her first blackout, at age 10, Lydia told her grandmother that she had seen a UAP. She described the craft in vivid detail. Her grandmother dismissed the claim as a side effect of the blackout. Despite the setbacks, Lydia finished school and obtained a scholarship to university. She stayed in touch with her grandmother after she moved away. The young woman continued to wrestle with her inner demons, but managed to gain more confidence. She focused on her studies, but also became involved with various people during this period. Lydia avoided long-term relationships and preferred to engage in intense, short-term affairs. Her undoubted mathematical talent propelled her forward. Numbers, formulas and equations provided refuge from a cold, unforgiving world. It was during this time that she became deeply interested in codes and cryptanalysis. As always, she excelled at the discipline, taking to it like a dolphin to water. Her undoubted brilliance led to attention from various institutions, both governmental and private. She was scouted in university by many different organizations. She was eventually recruited by EIC and ended up in their fabled research division. During her time at the company, she was an integral part in the development of their Leviathan code, the controversial security code that led to claims of invasion of privacy and cyber terrorism. It was less known that Lydia also developed a code on her own, which she called the Dragon Code. She kept this secret from her employers, a fact that may have come back to haunt her. At the age of 20, in 2002, Lydia had another major blackout. She later told of having witnessed another UAP. Her small circle of friends dismissed the incident. Lydia's only semi-serious relationship was with a man named Lee Walters. They saw each other for 2 months in 2005. The relationship ended when Lee suggested that they move in together. Lydia preferred her independence. At various points in her life, she complained of seeing visions. She developed paranoia and claimed that she was being followed by unknown individuals. Despite this, she continued to excel at work. So, she refused to see a mental health expert for help. Her grandmother, Sylvia, passed away in 2010. Lydia was left with no next of kin. Everything would come to a head in 2012. After her 30th birthday, Lydia's behavior became more erratic and bizarre. This worried her friends. She was clearly suffering from some form of schizophrenia, which led to extreme psychosis. Her delusions became more vivid and she complained of seeing dragons and cicadas. She claimed to hear voices and feel the presence of apparitions. She also claimed that she was being followed by tall men, in black clothing. On Saturday, the 28th of April 2012, Lydia claimed to have witnessed yet another UAP. She and her 3 friends attended a hobby ghosts gig at a local club. Despite the pleas of her companions, Lydia drank excessive amounts of alcohol. She felt ill and went to the toilet at 10:39. Afterwards she exited the club at the back. Witnesses say she collapsed at about 10:44. The fall caused a cut above her eye. Her friends grabbed her and tried to rush her to hospital. She came to in the car and convinced them to take her home instead. At her apartment, she told her friends about the UAP. Fed up with her stories, one of her friends scoffed audibly. Lydia snapped. She physically attacked her friend and had to be restrained by the other 2. Eventually they stopped her. Lydia broke down and sobbed uncontrollably. Then she passed out. Her friends put her in bed and left. The next day, on that Sunday, an apologetic Lydia called the friend she attacked. She begged for forgiveness and the 2 agreed to forget the incident. The friend says that Lydia sounded okay. She left her apartment a short while later. CCTV footage from that day showed no strange behavior on Lydia's part. She bought groceries and rented Reflex Arc on DVD. All seemed well. On Sunday evening, however, her neighbors heard a blood-curdling scream from Lydia's apartment. They knocked on her door and when they got no response, they called the police. The police arrived, only for Lydia to politely answer the door. She claimed to have no knowledge of any screams or disturbance. Despite the protestations of her neighbors, the police accepted her story and left. On Monday the 30th of April, Lydia went to work normally and there were no incidents. Lydia called in sick to work. She rigorously cleaned her home. At around 12 that afternoon, 2 men arrived at her apartment. The men were described as tall, thin and gaunt-looking. They were dressed in black suits, with black fedoras. Lydia left her apartment with them. Eyewitness accounts offered conflicting versions of how Lydia behaved. Some say that she did not seem distressed or that she was being forced in any way. Others say that she was clearly panicked and was trying not to show it. The 3 did not speak. They got into a black SUV and left. Security footage showed Lydia getting out of the SUV alone at 12:16. She withdrew money from an ATM. She could clearly leave or alert someone, but instead finished the transaction and got back in the car. At 1:10 they arrived at the Silver Dust Inn motel. Lydia exited the car alone once more and went into the reception to book a room. She paid in cash. The owner said that she appeared spaced out, like someone who was on heavy medication or drugs. She seemed confused, but insisted on room 23. She entered the room alone. The two men entered the room 10 minutes later. No one was seen exiting the room. It was booked for a 24-hour period. There was no answer the next morning, when the cleaner knocked on the door. The owner checked and everything was still in place inside the room. There were no signs of disturbance. All three people were gone. The motel security camera showed an unidentified man arriving at 1:23 that morning, who then drove away with the SUV. There has been no definitive sign of Lydia Alexander Vaughan since that day. A mysterious blog appeared online in 2014. It was called Dragons and Cicadas. It only remained accessible for 3 days. The author claimed to be Lydia, but this was never verified. The blog contained cryptic, meandering writings. It featured code ciphers and weird illustrations. There were many references to the Leviathan and Dragon codes. There were strange images, which were taken with the digital camera. The blog told readers to go check Spirit Lake, the name for the local lake on the outskirts of town. Some individuals went over there, but found nothing. Other readers of the blog alerted the police, who went to check the lake. The black SUV was found by police divers. Despite this massive lead, the police could never ascertain the origin of the blog. They found no other direct evidence of what happened at the Silver Dust. On Sunday, May 1, 2016, a woman entered the Kingston police station and shouted, "I am Lydia Alexander Vaughan. No one made me do this." She then opened fire on police officers with an automatic weapon. Officers returned fire and killed the assailant. Several individuals were wounded in the exchange. DNA tests revealed that it was not Lydia, but that it was in fact a vagrant named Alice Debbie Dunn. Investigations revealed that Alice was seen with two tall men, dressed in all black, who took her to the Silver Dust Inn, where they checked into room 23. When she came out, the disheveled woman was completely clean and properly dressed. The incident at the police station occurred about 1 hour later. Despite the eerie connections to the Vaughan case, police closed the file on the Dunn incident. This strange case has attracted numerous theories on what exactly happened to Lydia. Some believe that Lydia was murdered on the day of her abduction. The theory is that the men in black were operatives for EIC. The company discovered that their star cryptographer was designing her own code, which she kept hidden from them. This did not sit well with the powers that be. The Dragon code was Lydia's undoing. EIC contrived the entire scenario and executed it to perfection. They killed her and covered up all the evidence. Occasionally they would leak out false information to further throw investigations off track. It is even believed that EIC staged the Dunn incident, to further confuse the bizarre issue. The police rejected these claims and EIC were cleared of any involvement in the debacle. We personally reached out to the company for comment, and the spokesperson told us that the case is considered closed. They are saddened by Lydia's untimely death and hope that everyone will move on. But is Lydia really deceased? Others believe that the brilliant young woman was kidnapped by her ex, Lee, and members of the FTP cult. It is said that Lee never got over Lydia breaking up with him and joined FTP for spiritual enlightenment. He embarked on a ceremonial and ritualistic cleansing process, which is rumored to last 7 years. Once he had cleansed himself of his earthly bonds, he was asked to choose one person who he wanted to have with him forever. He chose young Lydia. He is believed to be the man who came to fetch the SUV in the early hours of the morning at the Silver Dust. We tried to reach out to FTP, but could not connect with anyone associated with that group. Was Lydia forced to join a mysterious cult against her will? To be the bride of a scorned, yet newly cleansed ex-lover? Not so, according to other theories. Some suggest that Lydia was recruited by Cicada 3301 and that she is currently working for the mysterious group. The true nature of this entity remains unknown. Proponents believe that the gifted cryptographer played a part in the conception of the famous Liber Primus. It is rumored that Cicada is a government-sponsored secret society, tasked with assembling the most gifted minds of our time. For what purpose, no one knows. None of this conjecture can be proven, of course. Although cicadas featured in Lydia's delusions, the link remains tenuous at best. The next theory suggests that Lydia was spirited away to Area 51, by actual men in black. The ones of ufology folklore. It is believed by some quarters that there is a portal beneath room 23 of the Silver Dust Inn. The tall specters traveled through this wormhole with Lydia, whereafter she was debriefed in the bowels of the famous government base, many thousands of kilometers away in Nevada. The strange theory further suggests that Lydia tried to escape and was accidentally murdered by her abductors. They covered up the crime and went on with their other nefarious plans. Whether any of that makes any sense, depends solely on your disposition. Perhaps the actual story was more tragic than fantastic. Yet another theory suggests that Lydia took her own life, with the aid of the unknown men. She could no longer deal with her migraines and blackouts. She could no longer deal with the crippling grief that she carried around since the death of her parents. So she disappeared and opted to end her life on her own terms. Although this is certainly a possibility, the evidence does not seem to support such a conclusion. Perhaps the strangest theory of all is the idea that Lydia was in fact an alien herself. She was given to her parents as a gift, whereafter they were murdered by her extraterrestrial progenitors. It is said that she was allowed to live amongst the human population to study our ways. Her bizarre behavior, UAP sightings and peculiar disappearance are presented as evidence. We reject the notion that Lydia was an alien being who finally went home. She was simply a person, who had her fair share of pain and grief in her life. Believe what you will, but the fact of the matter is that no one knows what actually happened. EIC offered a reward for any information on the whereabouts of Lydia, shortly after her disappearance. They ended the reward offer in 2016. The company shelved the Leviathan code in 2017. The Lydia Alexander Vaughan cold case remains open. It is the position of the investigators that Lydia's death cannot be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. In fact, there is enough circumstantial evidence to show that she may still be alive. Detectives say that there has been very little movement in this case since 2016. The whereabouts of Lee Walters are currently unknown. This case is a riddle, wrapped in a mystery, inside an enigma. Who were the men in black? What happened to Lydia? When exactly did Lydia become a threat to the powers that run the show? Where is Lydia's dragon code? Why has there been no definitive answers in the last 9 years? Perhaps we will eventually learn the truth. Perhaps not. But we will never stop asking the questions. If Lydia is still alive, we wish her Godspeed. We hope you find your way back, from wherever you are. Until next time, this has been the case of the abducted cryptographer.